there, my name is Mr. Doyle, and this is a great undertaking. This is my Carrie costume. I made the mistake of deciding to wear a costume for all of my videos, and boy is this wig uncomfortable. I am not regretting this decision at all. In this video, we're going to discuss the 1976 film Carrie, based on the novel of the same name by Stephen King. This is the OG Carrie screen adaptation, arguably, nay definitely, the best one, and the very first film adaptation of King's writing. Why this movie has been remade twice is beyond me. Spoiler alert, it was for money. They did it for money. That is why. This is the second of 7 Carrie-centric videos on this channel. The first focused on the novel. Then there is a video for each of the 3 Carrie movie adaptations, of which this is one. A video for The Rage Carrie 2, another for Carrie the Musical, and one more for an episode of the not at all terrible garbage TV show Riverdale. At some point during one of these 7 videos, I will have a bucket of pig's blood dumped over my head, but you'll have to watch all 7 Carrie videos to find out what video the clip is hiding in. Or maybe it will be in the first video you watch, if you don't watch them all in order. I didn't think this through. Anyway, it's totally pig's blood, and is definitely not fake blood that I bought on the internet. Nope, it's 100% authentic, homegrown, organic pig's blood, for sure. So make sure to watch all the videos to find that clip, history, and background. Directed by Brian De Palma, director of Scarface and The Untouchables, with a screenplay written by Lawrence Cohen, who would go on to adapt It and the Tommyknockers for television, and is also responsible for Carrie the Musical. Gee, thanks, Lawrence. The film stars Sissy Spacek as Carrie White, Piper Laurie as Margaret White, and John freaking Travolta as Billy the abusive bad boy boyfriend. The film was released in November of 1976 and became a huge commercial success. The film had a $1.8 million budget and grossed over $33.8 million. The film is regarded as one of the greatest horror movies ever made, and its influence on pop culture is palpable to this day. King was just 26 years old when he sold the rights. King was just 26 years old when he sold the rights for the film, and he sold it for only $2,500. Homie got screwed. But one can't help but wonder if he would be where he is today without the unprecedented success of this film. Carrie received rave reviews upon release and was cited as one of the best films of the year. Roger Ebert called the film an absolutely spellbinding horror movie. Many other reviews were equally kind, saying things like a teasing, terrifying, lyrical shocker, and the movie was called a landmark horror film. Carrie brought horror to the mainstream in ways that no other film had managed to do previously. Is it by the book? The movie does away with the dramatic irony of the novel almost entirely. There is no foreshadowing of the events to come outside of some minor incidents that occur when Carrie is upset. There are no post-prom research papers, no interviews with classmates. Even the childhood flashback and the origin story are omitted, which for those who didn't read the book prior to seeing the film, this omission was perhaps beneficial, as it left a lot more up to the imagination than the novel allowed. During the prom, even those of us who knew what was going to happen started to feel like a little hopeful, like maybe things are going to work out for little old Carrie after all. Whereas in the novel, King is never quite so generous. This is the most obvious difference between the book and the movie. In spite of this, it is a fully enjoyable experience. There was originally supposed to be a scene from Carrie's childhood in the movie, but apparently a irreconcilable mechanical malfunction occurred during filming and the scene was removed from the final cut. Also in the book, following the prom, Carrie goes on a full-blown campaign of terror through the town, and that was regrettably omitted from this movie as well. The carnage needed to continue, damn it. Let the world feel the wrath of the scorned and bow down before the Almighty One. Vibe and tone. All of the emotions that the book inspires in the reader, the pity, the embarrassment, the suffering and humiliation, they're all palpable during this film. It's all there aside from the constant knowledge of impending doom. There is a level of cheese that is to be expected from movies of this era. Some cheese comes in the form of overdone performances. Some comes in the form of gaudy camera tricks that probably seemed pretty cool at the time, but haven't aged well in my opinion. But for the most part, Sissy Spacek is just killing it so hard that you're willing to forgive the few missteps and blunders. For real though, Spacek delivers one of the greatest performances I've ever seen, rivaled only by her performance in Hot Rod, which is indisputably the greatest movie known to mankind. Visual effects, sound, editing, and cinematography. The practical effects in this movie are great, and some of the shots during the prom's climactic scene are both horrifying and gorgeous. I have beef with one particular shot where there was a decision made to spin the camera around in a tight circle for what feels like an eternity. It looks cool for about 10 seconds, and then it gets obnoxious. It's a fun effect if you like having vertigo and feeling nauseous. Also, there is this kaleidoscope camera effect that I could have done without. I'm sure it seemed way groovy back in the day, but it was not groovy. It was decidedly ungroovy. It was groove-free. Lastly, there are some pretty obvious sound editing issues, but they don't significantly detract from the overall experience, so all is forgiven. Soundtrack. The score by Pino Donaggio is beautiful, unsettlingly sinister, and as one of the few early King adaptations that came to fruition prior to the 1980s, it has the benefit of string arrangements and live instrumentation, an element that was nearly absent from movies in general, but particularly within horror films during the decade that followed. Look, I may be a child of the 80s, but the advent of MIDI technology and overuse of synths in all things pop culture that began that decade kinda bums me out. Not that this was always the case, but the technology at the time often just sounded super corny to me. Everyone was so blown away by the tech that they didn't care what it sounded like. That's right, I said it. The 80s was the worst time for music ever. Fight me! Cast. Acting. John Travolta does a convincing job as the abusive bad boy Billy Nolan. He has the ability to turn on a dime from smiling and jovial to cruel and sadistic. It's hard to believe he would go on to star in the comparatively wholesome musical Grease only 2 years later. Well, arguably it's more wholesome. Tell me more, did she put up a fight? Maybe wholesome isn't the word I'm looking for here. I have to be honest. Stupid wig. I did not care for Piper Laurie's performance as Margaret White in this movie. I felt that she went a little too heavy on the Southern debutante vibe. It seemed as if she might deliver her best "I do declare, Mr. Beauregard" at any moment. The delivery came off as inauthentic and like she was maybe trying too hard. However, the critics at the time did not agree with me, as she was nominated for the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress. I can't say words. Best Supporting Actress. for her role in the film, so maybe I'm wrong. Sissy Spacek is so on point that she thoroughly outshines nearly every other cast member. That's not to say the other performers are bad. Sissy is just so damned convincing. When she is quiet, loathsome pushover Carrie, she nails it. When she transitions to prom night Carrie, she is stunning, pure, and entirely pleasant. But when she goes off the deep end, without even saying a single word, she is terrifying. It is indeed a tough performance to follow. We have Spacek's husband to thank for having persuaded her to audition for the role and what would become a career-defining and genre-defining performance. Final thoughts. When it comes to film adaptations of King's work, Carrie was the first, and it set a high bar. Many of the early King movies are bad, and unless you're looking at them through the lens of nostalgia, are pretty obviously so. But this movie was genuinely a good movie. No nostalgia glasses needed. If you haven't seen it, you really ought to. Watch the movie. Well, that does it for Carrie, right? No one will ever feel the need to remake or reboot this classic film. Just kidding, because of course someone will, because they did. Join me next time for an in-depth look at The Rage, Carrie 2, a movie that isn't based on a Stephen King novel and also isn't about Carrie, but it's kind of about Carrie, but not really. Goodbye. Be sure to click like and subscribe to the channel for my continued analysis of all things Stephen King, pretty please with blood and guts on top. My name is Mr. Doyle, and this has been a great undertaking. Lordy Lord.